Hello everybody, my name is Cristina Caprioli. I'm here to pose the questions to Anna.
Anna Lindal.
So I'm just reading the questions, but maybe also
we will have
an exchange,
yes,
if it's coming along that way. So first question is, what is in your analysis, that is also your experience, you've been working with this a long time, and are presently also involved specifically with the building up of the research, as a notion, but also as a practice in practical terms. So what is, for you, the present state of the definition of artistic research?
Yeah, there are many different definitions, I would say. I mean, the one basic and most important is, of course, that it is based on artistic practice. It is the artist as researcher, and not the research on artists or on art. And it is, I think, I mean, I want to of course, angle it so that in the way that I would really like, I mean, the positive way that I think, that it is really a way of developing the art forms. That it's the discourse and the art is something very integrated, that it is through art and in the art, not on the art. That is for me the definition of artistic practice. And then you have so many different kind of discourses. You have, and I think perhaps we should stick to the music subject, because it is it's a very interesting and it's very defined field, I would say, because there is not so much transdisciplinarity in the music research, and that is it makes it easier. But it's also there are possibilities for transdisciplinarity that I think that are very important. But there are very many different music fields that are engaging now in artistic research, and of course composition is evident that is in itself very kind of research practice. I mean, to create new art, but it's not enough to call it research that you compose a piece, but that is a very, of course, a very. Then you have interpretation. There's a very big field of interpretation research in different ways, where I would say there is a very interesting strand coming, I think, very much from, we should not forget the beginning of artistic research in music, which was the historical movement with the traditional instruments, and which was really performed by musicians that were eager and curious to find out how did it sound, how can we change let's say not petrified, but a very traditional way of playing. How can you develop it and make it more alive and more close to today, in a way? I think because you can really see it as a evolution of by going backwards, and that was real research, going back to the historical perspective, go back to the old hand texts and handschrift, and and then working by trying and developing and learning the praxis, which I think has developed a strand in interpretation, in music, and the research that is somehow leaning on tradition, but also questioning the tradition very much in many different ways. If you think of musicology looks at tradition from the outside and back. You always look back at what has been done and what the tradition means and what. But for the musician, you have the possibility to look forward in your research, which I think is also very
and from
different.
Within.
Yeah, from within and forward. What is it going to be? What is it going to become? And you can also work with the present music of today, of course. And I have seen many interesting research projects also in Sweden and in the Orpheus Institute in Ghent, which is of course very important actor in this field, on interpretation and reevaluating how we somehow perform the works, the important classical works, in combination with music of today, so that I think is interpretation is very important strand. Improvisation also, and of course always in combination.
So you
also
separate the improvisation?
Yeah, I do. Improvisation and interpretation, I don't say that it's anything.
But there are specific methodologies.
Yeah, absolutely. But there are also, of course, combinations between
Yes.
improvisation and interpretation. And there are different, I mean, you have, of course, the improvisation in the traditional music, and you have the improvisation in the free improvisation of today, and in the jazz music, and so on, different kind of. Experimentation, I think, is a very strong word in the musical. I mean, experiments is the way you can experiment on I mean, in the musical expression, in different styles, and of course also technical experimentation. There is of course a technical strand through the electroacoustic music and different kind of technical possibilities to work, also live electronics, and so there are many researchers working with that. So, and then of course combination with transdisciplinary fields, which is, I think, very important actually.
Is that something coming along now, or is this?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I do think that is something evolving. But I think if you start to build something, you should start in your own practice, always in your own discipline. Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's important, because self-confidence is.
You need it.
Yeah, you need to build something where you know where you are, where you have your knowledge, of course, your knowledge and skills, and your curiosity also. You have to widen it from that point. I mean, to start the point of departure is important.
This might be a little bit controversial, because there's such a focus on transdisciplinarity today, and I agree with you that is interesting, but in order to have it, you do need to have disciplines to be able to trans something between. This in some situations or in some cultures, this is become a continuous in-betweenness that doesn't belong to any discipline, or it's just maybe it's the future of a future discipline itself, of being in between disciplines. But
and very interesting,
yes,
of course.
But at the moment when you build up something,
of course you should not close. I think it's very important that the art forms learn from each other also. I mean, it's not only that you're transdisciplinary in your practice, or that you meet, but that you actually learn or look at, and also have a kind of critical view on each other, because you can learn so much. You can, with this view from outside, I have learned so much from the fine art field, of course. We all know that is very dominant in the artistic research environment.
But this is because they have developed, they have invested in their own theorizing themselves and analyzing themselves, and sort of developing a discourse, but also a language for that particular discourse of research.
And with liaisons with very interesting philosophers and theoreticians.
From our field, I work within the field of choreography. This is coming along, but it's still to be also recognized from the outside. I don't know how it is in music.
It's also done in music. I have seen examples of where composers or interpreters work with kind of leaning or basing in a philosophical discourse or certain, and of course that will come with. But I think that music has something. It's something with music, and the musical field is slower. It takes more time. It's not that I mean that it's slower in a bad way. I think it is music takes time, and also in doing. I mean,
Yeah, and you have to be able to do it also.
yes, yeah, also, yeah. But
that takes time.
Yeah, that's also the matter, the fact of skill and knowledge, yes. That is very, very embedded in the musical practice, absolutely.
But music has a tremendous history of theory and analysis.
So, exactly,
and
I think
itself is a way of investigating the practice. I feel
absolutely.
It's so big. Also, the fact that it is always connected to a notation and it's already documenting itself.
Yeah, exactly.
So it seems to me that the research in music would be almost organic. It's like a new. It's just a new organizational situation. Maybe.
Another transparency, of course, in the process. It's very important. I think that is the big difference with research or not. Just artistic practice, that you have a transparency in the process. When you work, you don't only work towards a result that you present, but you have a transparency in how you work, and also a documentation in different ways of the result. But I think also that, as you say, it's very different with musical theory and art theory, for instance. We are much more connected and embedded in the practice with musical theory, of course.
And
it's
way
part
back.
of, always has, and it's easy because there's a language, there's an alphabet, there is everything for in music.
And a strong belonging in each instrument has its own history, and you don't have this in the other arts. So it seems to me that music and research go well together.
I think, but I think there are some pitfalls that I would like to highlight. I think they're probably obvious, but I just want to. It's very often so that music is considered as something. It can be considered instrumental. Music can be instrumental. You know, you have music and health, music and medicine is where you want to use musical kind of expression for other means, and I think that is. I don't have anything against that as a.
But it's in all.
But it's not. Yeah, probably.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, but I think that is something you can absolutely connect to, but I don't think it's there where you start to build the research environment or research discourse.
So I should go to the second question, which is also relevant to this switch to the outside or to the receiving public or fellow researchers, but also public. And it is in what position this process of artistic research do you think research plays itself in relation to the university system or the discipline itself, in scientific terms, in humanistic, sociological, political terms? And where and how does artistic research place itself and operates?
I think it's important to create your own field. Very, very strongly. I think that is important. It's not because it's not interesting to work with other disciplines, absolutely not. But it's a new field. It's very young. We don't have. I don't think it's very useful to just copy other methodologies or theories. I mean, we have to build by doing. I think that I'm convinced that we have long time still to go by doing case studies that you can have examples that you can where you build more and more let's call it an artistic research discourse built on what we do, because it is doing is the base. So I think then I must say my experiences also is that as close as we should be and are to the humanist
field,
all the fields, our sister so to say fields like music and art and film and theater theory and literature, everything. It is sometimes there the most difficult to connect. because of a certain kind of a concurrence of some kind.
Oh,
yeah,
you think there's
I've
a
experienced that.
competition,
Kind of competing in not.
Are you speaking in Europe, or is it specific of Sweden, or you something that you feel?
I don't really know. It's a little bit different, but I have seen in music actually in Gothenburg, where I was
yes.
dean. The musicology and the artistic music research
they didn't connect.
Almost not at all.
Huh.
And that is it's also history.
Territorial.
Yeah,
stuff.
it can be a regional. I think it's, but I've seen it also in other places, and I think it's sad, because I think we have so much to have from each other. But I think then we perhaps need to build something where we can, so to say, connect. From that standing point, that this is our field and this is our research, because I think that there is a certain mistrust or misunderstanding.
You don't think there is maybe also discrepancy
in the method,
in timing of development?
Yeah, absolutely, because of course, and also the humanistic field is feeling very threatened from many ways, because the reflection and the time that it takes to research in these fields it's in the academia as a whole already threatened today, where you have science as a complete.
But do you think it is important to connect, to intertwine with the different?
Absolutely.
Out from an empowered self-positioning,
exactly.
To reconnect to the other research fields. Yeah.
But you have to do it. I mean, you can. I could see we had fantastic. I've seen fantastic collaboration with history of ideas and of philosophy also, of course. But with our closest, the ones that really know about our fields, there can be a kind of competition or misunderstandings, as you say. It's and that I am sad about that actually, because I think that all perspectives are important.
There is a lot of work that is being done now, and a tremendous effort that is put into the development of artistic research in the visual arts, also in choreography as well. So it seems sad if you don't work together.
Yeah, exactly.
But maybe it's not possible now.
I think it will be possible, absolutely. I think this is a matter of time.
Okay.
Absolutely. There will be new generations from both sides, so to say, and there will be things developing, and there are very good examples also, of course. I should not be, but
because the next question, and our last question here, was also whether whilst you are working on developing artistic research methods and also how to situate that within the university system. The question here was whether, in order to understand how to work in this development, whether you work with critics, historians, musicologists, people coming from your field but not practitioners.
Yes, of course.
Do you do that?
Yeah, you do, but I want to stress the point of developing your own, the self-confidence in your own way of describing the field, first of all, because and also very important to find let's say the research formats ourselves.
Formats,
very important, because if you think you have to adapt to something that is not relevant for you, then it will become something else. You have to rather risk something with doing the formats that are purely artistic.
But would you go so far then to say that maybe part of the intention or part of the target of this artistic research is in fact to further inform and to stimulate the historians, the critics?
Absolutely, yeah, of course, and to revitalize
the field
many
from
fields,
within,
and many fields actually. I think that artistic research can be I shouldn't say more, but can be very important for the academia as a whole. if being taken, so to say, seriously and invited, and that happens also, of course, all the time. Mostly, it's sad to say, but it's easier. It has been easier to integrate or to work together with scientists as well, with the natural science.
But there is no territorial
exactly.
question.
And it's also, there is something that is in the, you can say, in the laboratory kind of practice or in the experimental practice is very, very easy to translate.
Would you say that there is a what is it called? A danger in placing experimental and sort of critical discourse within the field inside the educational system of the university? Is there a danger that you sort of segregate it there, that it's already so difficult to do it in the outside, and now it's very good that there is a place to do it, but does that mean that it will empty?
It's very important. I think the dialogue and the interaction with the real world, so to say, is even more important than with the rest of the academia. I think we, as art fields, we have to be so open to I mean, we also have to be what do you call it? Påverka.
Be influenced.
We have to influence the institutions.
Yes.
The traditional and let's say very conventional institutions with the development of the art forms that I think, but we have to be aware of that inside of academia, and that we are not only here, we are always connecting, and to bring also in free artists, so to say, into the academia.
There's something in the scientific world that's more accepted. It's normal almost that academia or university system hosts the research, but that is at the same time connected to the real world, the production outside.
Results
are. I believe, for instance, for the music research, wouldn't it be good if academia, the university environment, would be placed inside of the big institutions or in direct exchange, and in fact give the big institutions that do have responsibility for the future, also to have responsibility also in terms of economy, to support the research. Because the danger is to bring research inside educational system and educational money alone.
Absolutely.
Also gives an alibi for the big money, big institution not to carry any responsibility for that future.
I can tell you something. We had a big opera manager as a guest for one of our seminars, working here and he had no connection to artistic research, but he was very curious and he asked lots of questions, and then he said, well, but this is fantastic, we can bring you to our opera houses and then you can finance our research. That's the opposite. He thought so right away a possibility of getting new ideas and and to have it financed also. But I think that's fine with me. But if they want to develop, but I think to turn the big institutions into researching units that you have
would be more interesting, politically speaking also.
But it's also up to us to really create the collaborations with the companies, with the orchestras, with the opera houses, and so. I think that is a big task for this new platform, for instance. I was thinking of
the one that you're working on now.
Yeah, here in Stockholm. I was thinking of, becoming if you see as an individual, and to become a researcher is another kind of perspective. A music researcher, for instance, if you're a musician, I think you have to be prepared to also to another kind of practice in a way. It's not that you change your way of making music, but that you have to be prepared to combine this the discoursive and the practical playing or music making, music presenting into something integrated, which is quite special for the performing arts, I think. That you can somehow embody the research in another way than you can make the sounding seminar, for instance, with the music not only represented but really kind of as example. You are yourself doing it, and that's something very exciting. I think and it's also incredibly interesting way
but then you
of
have
communicating.
to convince science and humaniora that this it really is.
Yeah, but it's something.
It is
but I think it is. It's important that you have another role when you. I mean, you're not just a musician or just a researcher. You are something in between, and you have to elaborate with that. And I'm also very interested in how to develop a language. Or a written language also. What kind of texts do we produce? Exactly. I think of your text in the last Weaving Politics, for instance, that can be somehow congenial with the art that you work with and you want to present. That's for me, because so that you don't think that you have to get into an academic format. That is, I think, important. I mean, especially in the beginning when you start with this.
It's exciting.
That you feel that you...
It's an exciting time with this idea of
I think we're going over the
research.
time, but...
Maybe that's enough.
Yes. And I say hello to everybody in Florence.
Sorry, we got carried away. Send us the question for next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.